Hey guys, Palsteron here, and we need to talk about the huge reveal for Path of Exile 2, which just had their patch 0.5 revealed. With a new league mechanic, an absolutely insane rework of the endgame, 2 new ascendancies, but before we even start, I want to talk about what was absent. No new class, which means no swords, unfortunately. No new item class, nothing like that. But on the other hand, we also have the reveal that 1.0 is actually coming out later this year. So most likely somewhere after ExileCon. Jonathan basically said that this patch 0.5, was to get everything out there right now. So we have the content, we can test it, and then over the next 6 months, they're mostly focused on fixing the issues. And on the side, they're most likely also working on Act 5, Act 6. At least I can't ever see them release 1.0 without those, but they have stated that they don't need all the classes to release, so this is not too surprising. Also, if you're not aware, the patch will go live on the 29th of May, and the patch notes won't be out until the 21st. So for now, we basically just get the reveal and everything else they tweet about or talk about. But talking about what we did get is a full Atlas rework. Now, they did double down on the Infinite Atlas, so there's nothing crazy like it, but they talked about streamlining it quite a bit, and they want to give you more purpose with new quest lines. Their stated goal here was to create sort of these hubs that you can teleport from, and you kind of know where you are at all times, at least at the start before you start venturing out. And it seems like they really did a lot here. You have this fortress that you can go into and complete maps, and you get Atlas passive points unlocked. In the Q&A, they talked about having more than 300 Atlas passive points, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And yes, you can complete all of them, with some of them having options though, so it's not like everybody will have exactly the same setup. And at the end of the fortress, there is also a pinnacle boss. We don't know too much about it, but it's the guy with the wings, which also got posted on Twitter. In general, I think this is a great idea because it gives you sort of a tutorial into maps. It gives you unlocks, and it is also contained in this fortress, so you're not going to go venture out and not know what to do. It seems quite structured. But that is not even the beginning, because they have been reworking all the old mechanics. So for example, we have Breach getting reworked into what is basically Path of Exile 1 Breach. If you don't know what that means, it's basically you complete the breaches and you get graft blood, and then there's a whole breach tree where you can customize your loot exactly. And from what we've seen from the trailer, it is even more pinpointed than the Path of Exile 1 tree, so it kind of seems like an evolution of it. I'm not the biggest fan of the Breach tree in Path of Exile 1, but the Path of Exile 2 one seems quite interesting. So for example, you can exactly pinpoint what base of amulet you want to drop from the tree. So maybe that is going to make the experience a little bit better. On top of that, Expedition, Delirium, and Ritual also got huge reworks, and the most important thing, they all have new pinnacle bosses after their normal bosses. So there's a ton of new boss encounters that all seem quite complex and quite intricate, so they really put a lot of time and work into this. And all of these mechanics, Breach, Expedition, Delirium, Ritual, will come with their own quest lines that are on the Atlas. So not only will you have the fortress where you go in and you unlock all your bonuses and your Atlas tree, you also have all these side quests that will lead you to fill out new trees, because yes, there's not just the new Atlas passive tree, there's also side trees, and these you can fill out, I don't think completely, but it seems like maybe half or something. But in general, there's going to be a lot of customization and a lot of meta progression, which I'm a fan of. I like trees. I like Atlas trees. I like all the passive trees. It's fine. Like, just if something doesn't work, just throw in more trees. Side note, Expedition will not only lead you on land, it will actually lead you at sea. So you have to put in a logbook, and then you're going to scout certain islands, and there's even some environmental stuff going on. I will say here that if you watch the full release, just FYI, there's a ton of spoilers, especially for some of the bosses that I just mentioned. So if you're a lore guy, maybe skip that, but yeah, at your own caution. Now, I did forget Abyss counts also as a quest line from what I understand, but it does not have a complete rework. And then on top of that, we have stuff like Wisps, Essences, Rogue Exile, which are a little bit more nebulous. They got like small changes here or there, but they're not getting a full overhaul. The temple has been integrated into the base game, but in the Q&A, they were made clear that we understand it will be nowhere near the same as before. You're not going to do your snake anymore, and it's going to be a lot more random-esque. And you also can't do the exploit anymore where you can just fight Itziri every single encounter. The Atlas passive tree seems quite exciting. Seems like a lot of unlocking to do, which might take like over 100 hours for a lot of people, including all the quest lines. There's definitely a lot to do in terms of completion, but it's really hard to comment until we see all those passive trees and all the side trees to kind of think about power level of certain mechanics. Now then, let's talk about the new league mechanic. And that league is called Runes of Aldur. You find an NPC, and you have to inscribe symbols on an ancient Ezomite remnant, and then you get certain rewards. At the start, you have like 2 symbols, later you have 6 symbols, 7 symbols, and so on. And it's basically just pick your own reward. And the monsters that spawn from that get harder and harder the more of the runes that you have, or the more runes the encounter has. And the runes also add certain modifiers to the monsters you're fighting, so extra fire damage, extra cold damage, and so on. Other than that, we also know that they drop Verisium, which is then in turn used for crafting. There's a ton of small tidbits about what that crafting can do. It can transform certain uniques. So for example, it can turn leveling uniques into more endgame-esque uniques. But the most interesting thing this Verisium seems to do is turn your armor items, it doesn't have to be armor, but like armor, evasion, energy shield, into runic ward. And it seems to be kind of like a reverse energy shield. So whereas usually your energy shield is over your life, and if you get hit, it's first the energy shield, then the life, it is the other way around. The runic ward will only get touched if you ever drop below 0 HP. So you can kind of see it as one-shot protection. And I think this is actually genius because a lot of these hybrid builds that want to go both life and energy shield, now they have to focus on both recoveries. And usually what happens is you get hit and your energy shield is constantly low and it's not actually doing what you want it to do. But the ward will ever only get touched whenever you're actually in danger, which we'll see how long the recovery period is, but just from looking at what they showed us, it seems pretty damn OP, especially for life builds. Energy shield builds already have a lot of EHP, but life builds, not so much. So that is a big deal. There's also lots of new uniques, runes, and crafting methods to interact with runic words. Way too much to list them all here. Now, we don't get a new class, but we do get 2 new ascendancies. The first one, which is the Spirit Walker, which is a Huntress ascendancy. And this one is themed around spirit animals, which are companions that can either help you in battle or give you passive buffs. I will say from the reveal, it seemed to be more like a thing that you do for the actual minions themselves, so a companion build, rather than just for the buffs, but we'll have to see the numbers exactly. Now, you can either specialize in one of the 3 companions, or you can pick all 3, and then there's a secret node that shows up called Sacred Unity, which enhances them even further. Beyond those companion nodes, though, there's also a Tame Beast related node, which makes it so Tame Beast can also affect unique monsters. And we have no idea what that means. They talked about the monkey guy, and you can tame him, or the bird in the ultimatum encounter. It seems pretty crazy. I don't know how the hell they're going to balance that, but yeah, this one's going to be quite spicy. And to round it all off, we have Idolatry, which gives you buffs depending on how many idols you have in your gear. Then we have the second ascendancy, which is for the monk, and it's called Martial Artist. It seems to be attack-based focus, not just unarmed like a lot of people thought it would be. And it starts off with Hollow Form Technique, which is kind of this channel that summons clones, and you can put a skill in there, like any martial skill, and it will repeat that skill over and over. Not 100% sure how practical a channeling skill like that will be, but it seems quite interesting depending on the skill that you choose. And you also have Way of the Mountain, which is a little bit more defensive, kind of playing into that channeling theme, which is going to leave you a lot more exposed to attacks. And you have Hollow Resonance, which gives you a bell on your back. I don't know if that was a meme at first, but apparently that is real. And it gives you extra proc. So it seems like just the bell that you usually spawn, but it's always up. I'm assuming it will deal significantly less damage. Otherwise, this is hella broken, but we'll see. And then you also have Runic Meridians, which just straight up grants you extra runic sockets. This could be absurdly strong while leveling, or like early game progression in terms of resistances or fixing your attributes, just to make you a little bit more, I don't know, make it a little bit easier to gear. But later on, this can obviously be a powerhouse if you're using several idols, or by the way, there's like 100 new socketables across the board, so we'll have to see on this one. The Ascendancies, though, I want to go a little bit more all in once they actually show us some of the skills and the numbers behind it, so I'll leave that for the future, and a lot of those videos are going to come out over the next week or two whenever they give us the release. Now, at the end, we have a new functionality for in-game, and this is mostly for content creators and for people who use build guides. And they call it the Build Planner, which will allow content creators to share their builds more efficiently. So that means you can import a file and then it will show in-game where you have to select points. I can even make notes where you hover over your gear slots and it's going to show you whatever I typed in there. There will most likely be supports from most angles there, hopefully POB, max roll, others. We'll have to see about that. We'll also, once I know more about that, I will inform you. And a lot more. Honestly, there's so many uniques they showed. There's so many socketables they showed. In general, I'm quite overwhelmed. I literally just came out of my live stream over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. Over the next days, we're going to analyze this a little bit more because it was a lot. This was probably the most confused I was ever when it comes to this. I just took these notes so I could make an overview video, but we're going to deep dive into a lot of these topics over the next few days, so you can subscribe and I'll keep you posted. Now, the only concern I have left is that layouts have not really been addressed. In the Q&A, Jonathan talks about layouts a little bit and says that they're always looking for ways to micromanage that, and they have also talked about campaign getting a little bit revamped so that you kind of know where to go. So there are certain formations where, I don't know, for example, the ravens in the ritual area will show you where to go and whatnot. Kind of like PoE1-esque. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of layouts, I don't really want to make any statements or comments until I've actually played it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the reveal as well. More videos to come. And since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.